Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. I'm really excited to be talking with you and sharing some ideas today. We will be sharing a link to the slides with you at the end of the webinar, so get ready for that. I'm going to be taking you on an AI journey, wink, wink, into the world of AI chatbots for K through 12 educators. We're going to start with the basics of chatbots, go through some serious concerns, talk about changes in learning and teaching, and I'm going to share my top 5 ideas to save you time as a teacher. Finally, we'll talk about the responsible use of AI with our students. Throughout the webinar, I'm going to share polls using Slido. We'll share the link when the polls are ready, or you can scan a QR code and join the poll from your phone when they come up. So get ready for that. Please use the chat feature to introduce yourselves. What's your name? What school do you work at? And what's your role? Throughout this session, feel free to use the chat to share links and your ideas for using AI in practice. If you have a question that you want us to answer, post it in the Zoom Q&A, and our fantastic admissions team, Jeremy, Beth, and Lori, will help us to answer and facilitate those questions. Keep in mind that I don't claim to have all the answers about AI. I'm a practitioner just like you, but we would love to hear your questions. Feel free to post them there, and we're excited to learn from you and what you're interested in. We are also giving away a copy of Matt Miller's new book, AI for Educators. We'll be selecting a random name from those of you who take part in the chat, so stick around until the end to find out if you won the book. Okay, I'm Pam Harland. I'm an assistant clinical professor. I coordinate the library, media, and digital learning specialist certification and MED programs here at Plymouth State. I hope you've all introduced yourselves. I see the chat is starting to get active. And now let's get ready for our first Slido poll. So if you have your phone, you can scan that QR code. If you're on slido.com, you could open up slido.com in another tab and enter the code 389435, or you could just click the link that someone, I think Beth, just sent out. I see people are starting to participate in the poll. We're just going to pause here for a couple of seconds so people can take part. All right. So about half of you have used ChatGPT before, so that's exciting. I was hoping for that kind of result from this poll. I see a lot of you plan on using it. You've heard about it, but not used it. And then there's a few of you who have no idea what I'm even talking about. So you will have fun during this session. So my goal in this presentation is to share information so we all have an additional understanding. We all have a similar shared experience and ideas for using AI. I want us all to be better prepared for ourselves and also for our students. So in this first section, we're going to be talking about generalized chatbots. Specifically, we're going to look at ChatGPT, but I've also been using Bard and Bing Chat more often, and I encourage you to try all three and compare your results, see how they differ and how they're similar. You'll find that they're all different and they have their own strengths and weaknesses. The GPT in ChatGPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. If you haven't used it yet, this is the interface. It's shockingly simple to use. You just enter a prompt in the bar at the bottom, and it will respond in this weirdly human-like way. But let's talk for a minute about what these chatbots are. These chatbots are generalized, not specialized. They're designed to solve common language problems like answer questions, summarize large amounts of information, and generate text. I really love this Hackman quote from PC World earlier this year. Part Wikipedia, part researcher, part analyst, part poet. These chatbots are built using large general purpose language models, which are pre-trained deep learning models that understand and generate text in a human-like way. Behind the scenes, they consist of an artificial neural network, a lot like our brains, and they're trained on large, like unimaginably humongous quantities of text, trillions of words. For example, the entire historic Wikipedia codex is one tiny part of these language models. They use natural language processing to sound frighteningly human. They use predictive analysis to make predictions of what the right answer should be, not what is true or a fact, but what is most plausible. And they use sentiment analytics, which seeks to predict how the user is feeling. You've probably noticed if you tell a chatbot that you don't like its response, it will apologize a lot. Researchers from OpenAI, the ChatGPT company, and DeepMind, Google's AI company, they teamed up on the idea of users giving feedback to the chatbots, which really increases the usefulness of these tools. ChatGPT, for example, gives you a thumbs up, thumbs down for users to let it know how helpful the response was. It is continually learning from our prompts and then learning from our reactions to its responses. This continual learning model is in part what makes these chatbots generative and incredibly useful. They keep learning and improving the more we use them. This is Bard's interface, very similar to ChatGPT. It uses its own large language model. And this is Bing's interface. It uses the GPT-4 large language model. The free version of ChatGPT uses the GPT 3.5 large language model. The difference between versions 3.5 and 4, like it doesn't sound big, but it is unbelievably big. GPT-3 has a cutoff date of September 2021. So the free version of ChatGPT doesn't have any information available to it since 2021. It doesn't know what books have been published or facts about the world or anything like that, really recent. You can pay $20 a month to use ChatGPT 4, or you can use ChatGPT 4 for free if you use Bing. The nice thing about the GPT-4 model is that it simultaneously searches the internet for information. It's smarter and more accurate too. On this chart, the bottom are a list of standardized exams that GPT-3 and 4 have taken. GPT-3 is in the blue and 4 is in the green. You can see how 4 outperformed 3 on most of these exams. Some of them no difference, but a lot of them a pretty significant difference. Most notably here on the bar exam, that first orange arrow on the left, the US Biology Olympiad exam, and it also got a nearly perfect score on the GRE verbal. This is a really fun chart to examine, especially for AP teachers. Once I share the slides, you can go through, click on these links and follow them for more information and deeper analysis. This is a graph representing the incredible speed of adoption of ChatGPT. The previous record holder was Instagram, which took several months to reach 1 million users. ChatGPT reached 1 million users in less than a week in late November with no advertising. They just released it for free and let it speak for itself. Today, there are approximately 1.6 billion users. That's billion with a B. So if you think your high school students aren't using it, you're probably wrong. Like Napster was to the music business back in the 1990s, and Amazon has been to shopping, this technology is going to shake up knowledge workers, including teaching and learning. This is not just an innovation, it is a disruption in how we teach and learn, and it's really going to impact us over the next few years. These chatbots not only make how we've been doing things better, but they will eventually make the things we were doing obsolete. I'm personally excited about using AI in my work. I think it helps us to work smarter, not harder. A little bit of time in learning how these chatbots work will ultimately make you more efficient in your work, possibly make your work better. For me, it's like having a brainstorming partner, an editor, and a teaching assistant right there at my fingertips. As a simple example of using a chatbot, in case you haven't used one before, I asked it to help outline this webinar. It gave me several specific ideas, which were very helpful, but it seemed really boring. So I responded that it seemed boring, and it gave me ideas for improving the webinar, like to tell stories, to include visuals, and to encourage participants to ask questions. On that note, Jeremy, are there any questions that I should address right now?
Not yet, but I did prod them for questions. So Pam did say that she's willing to be interrupted in here. So feel free to throw those in there. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So before we talk about all of the magic that it can do, we're going to start by understanding some of the concerns. And I'm not going to talk about the potential for mass human extinction in an AI apocalypse. Instead, I'm going to talk about concerns for using chatbots in teaching and learning. So let's start with some basics. ChatGPT is an open source tool, so any personally identifying information you share will be shared with other developers, including your name, email address, and how you use it. Its privacy policy is not as bad as TikTok's, but it's not good. I can't really imagine that it's going to be approved for use by students in New Hampshire's public schools due to our state's strict privacy laws. The terms of use state that users must be 13 to sign up for an account, but if you're under 18, you need your parents' permission. Once you have the slides, you can click on the images like this to access the privacy policy and the terms of use if you really want to dig into it. There have been many claims that ChatGPT is biased, especially in the early days. In this image, a research team prompted the bot to write job ads and then analyzed the language that it created. The findings showed that yes, it is biased, and it contains almost identical biases generated by real people who also wrote job ads. So not more, not less. It essentially mirrors the current culture and climate because it's based on these large language models that were written by all of us. In this study, the researchers used a series of political compass tests and found that it initially was very left and libertarian leaning, but after OpenAI shifted their algorithm, the results show that it is now more center. They're trying to keep it neutral. I think it's important to keep in mind that the internet is also full of bias. AI is no different. It's just a tool based on information that already exists, and that was created by humans like us. Hallucinations are the scariest parts of AI chatbots for me right now. When a large language model cannot find the right answer, it makes up an answer that sounds unbelievably credible. These factual errors are called hallucinations. The AI developers are urgently working on this issue today. For now, it's just the nature of some of these large language models. We're going to have to fact check the responses that it gives. One example I experienced is that a New Hampshire school librarian was looking for a quote from a book. She sent this message out to the New Hampshire school librarians listserv, seeking the source of the quote, "You can't hide secrets from the building you keep them in." I thought this is a great test for a chatbot. I was excited to see if a chatbot could help. ChatGPT and Bing both said, sorry, I cannot find the quote, but Bard gave me an answer. Oh, it's from The Secret History by Donna Tartt, one of my favorite novels. Bard gives me the context of the quote, who said it, why it's significant, and even what page it's on. So before I sent this exciting news out to the whole listserv, I checked it out in the book and I could not find the quote. This is a hallucination. That quote is nowhere in The Secret History, and I wasted a lot of time trying to find it. I mean, the book is all about the dangers of hiding secrets, so it makes sense to me that it would be in there. It's just also plausible, but it's also not real. So when I asked Bard, did you make this up? It apologized and confirmed that the quote is not in the book. Really a weird experience for me. Worst of all, I'm sure you can imagine the implications of this when users, like our students, are using this without understanding that these tools hallucinate in this way. They are not looking for the right answer, but a possible answer or a plausible answer. Really interesting news is that last week, Bard released this exciting update where you can click on the Google icon in any of its responses and confirm whether a statement generated by the chatbot can be evaluated or not. It also provides links to similar or opposing content like live out on the internet. So I haven't experimented too much with it. I just tried it once to see if it was like active in my account, and yes, it was. So this is something I think that the other chatbots are going to have to do to deal with these hallucinations. I suggested that students in my theories of learning class at PSU use ChatGPT to answer the prompt, how do different learning theories manifest in schools? The students went in several directions when chatting with the chatbot, and the ones who asked for a citation were sometimes told that the chatbot was unable to cite its sources. Some were given real citations, and others were given fake citations that looked very real and seemed plausible. This is the Twitter thread I read once I saw that this was happening. In this thread, an economics professor asked ChatGPT, what is the most cited economics paper of all time? You would think this would be a relatively easy question to answer by a giant AI chatbot, but instead it made up a paper title, pulled in two likely authors, and assigned it a publication and date. You can read the whole thread. This is a linkable article when you have the slides, and really follow along those fascinating details of what this economics professor found out about it. We are just going to have to keep in mind that these chatbots are sharing statistically probable outputs, which makes sense for a digital intelligence, but it does not mean that it's true. I asked ChatGPT to create an annotated bibliography on the topic of intellectual freedom, and it gave me these 5 sources. The bad part is number 3 is the only one that is both real and accurate. Number 1 is just a little bit wrong. They got the author wrong, but 2, 4, and 5 are completely made up. They are not real publications. Taken together, this looks like a perfectly plausible reference list, but several of the references aren't real. This was like a fun, disturbing, and educational activity for me to do. I used Bing Chat to create an annotated bibliography, and it gave me 5 accurate and real sources with hyperlinks, and it summarized them. I asked it to revise the list in APA format, no problem. And finally, I asked it to replace the website references with scholarly journal articles, and it did it. There's nothing more recent than 2019 on this list, but still it selected quality references to important articles, and they're all real. So Bing for the win. I never thought I'd be promoting Bing in 2023, but I think every educator should try it out. Cheating is, of course, a concern that all educators are dealing with in this whole area of AI. However, AI detecting tools are not going to be the easy answer in trying to catch someone using a chatbot to cheat on homework assignments. Traditional plagiarism checkers like Turnitin, they cannot identify AI generated content, although they claim to be working on it. There are over 100 AI detectors available today, like for free out on the internet. None of them can prove definitively that someone used AI for an assignment or not. A researcher entered the first page of Macbeth into one of the AI detecting tools, and it came back with, "This text is AI generated." So, how can we accuse a student of using an AI to write a paper after hearing something like that? At one of the faculty discussions at PSU in the early spring, someone told a story about a high school senior who applied to an out of state college, and his application was flagged as having been written by an AI. He denies using an AI to write it, but how can someone prove or disprove whether or not they used an AI to write something? It's really tough. It's going to be a challenge. Spinbot is a Chrome extension that uses AI to rewrite and paraphrase your text with a single click. It's often used to cheat tools like Turnitin and AI detectors. There are dozens of text paraphrasing tools and websites out there. They're all using AI, and they're getting better and better at outmaneuvering the AI detectors. This is a no-win cycle of trying to catch students in this. Finally, and very importantly, a new study out of Stanford found that the detectors were wildly biased against non-native English writers. So another reason not to use these detectors. Because of all these concerns, it's important that we're all teaching critical thinking information literacy skills to our students, no matter their age. Students can no longer be passive consumers of information. They must be active participants in that whole information landscape. And we need to provide them with the critical thinking skills to get there. So, what can we do? First, we need to learn and understand all types of information literacy ourselves, how AI works, what media literacy is, and how to investigate information sources. If you're not sure about this, talk to your school librarian or take a class. Second, we need to assist our students in their understanding of all forms of information literacy, including the ability to recognize AI generated content and to be skeptical when they see it. All right, Slido interaction time. We're back on Slido. If you have your phone, scan that QR code. We'll paste the link into the chat now. This time, I want you to enter 1 to 3 words that describe your current feelings about AI, specifically about teaching and learning. How are you feeling right now? We're going to pause here for just about 30 seconds as you
And,
enter your words.
and Pam, as we're waiting, we do have a couple of questions that have come through. There's one softball question I think will be pretty easy, and then maybe a few other doozies. But what's the best way to access ChatGPT, Bard, or Bing? App or web or what?
Yeah, I'm maybe kind of old school. I primarily use the web. I just go to the URL and log in that way. I have them all connected to my Google account, and that's how I log in. I do have the app loaded. I just don't use it very much. I think because the font's too small, I have to get out my glasses when I start using that.
Let's do one more question here, and we can do more because they are coming in now pretty nicely. But again, the polling, so don't forget that poll, everybody.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
watching.
One of the other questions, are there any blocks or ability for schools or educators to stop students from using ChatGPT or any of the other tools?
There's blocks at your school, so you can make sure that ChatGPT or some of the other tools get blacklisted at your school, you'll talk to your technology department about that. Maybe have it blacklisted just for students and keep it open for teachers as you're starting out, figuring out how this is going to work and how you're going to use it.
And there is one more if you want to go there, or we can go to the poll. But yeah, the final one is simply, are there any particular ways that we as teachers can support parents in this new tech landscape? And we probably want to ask that question of ourselves as well, right?
Yeah, I know. I bet we're going to have to start doing some public information sessions, nighttime with parents and give them a demo, let them see what it is that these chatbots can do, how their students might be using it for good and maybe not so good. So yeah, thanks, Jeremy. Those were great questions. Thanks, everyone. So, all right, I was watching the poll results come up. I'm happy that excited is in the center, one of the biggest words, yay, word clouds. I totally understand overwhelmed, and I'm glad to see curious. Curious is good. Suspicious is good. So I'm sorry for you who are overwhelmed and afraid. I hope that you feel a little bit better soon, because now we're going to start looking at some of the ideas that we can all begin thinking about how to adapt some of our practice based on these AI chatbots. So John Spencer is the author of books like Empower and Launch. He has been writing about how exciting AI is for teachers and students. You can click on the yellow image to read his blog called No, Artificial Intelligence Won't Destroy High School English or Any Other Subject. In that blog post, he makes the case that AI will not replace all student writing, but we have to bring joy to our learning practices. So that's his big argument, is just making our learning practices more filled with joy. For example, I really love this example. Why do humans still play chess even though an AI can beat any single human today? So one interesting thought is that teams of humans can beat an AI chess player, right? You have multiple minds going together. They could beat an AI chess player. And the most complex and interesting chess matches are those that are played between human and AI partners and human and AI partners. So I love that idea. It's really fun to consider how we could include partnering with a chatbot in our activities and assignments, not just for playing chess, but for other activities and assignments. So we've all done things like think, pair, and share, but how about think, pair, ChatGPT, pair, and share? So allow students to get their ideas out, to talk about them with a partner, and then refine them by asking a chatbot for some help or clarification, or to expand on their ideas before discussing it with your partner and sharing them out with the class. Eventually, teaching our students to use chatbots as a collaboration tool is going to give them a superpower. As Adam Moeller points out in this tweet, ask it a question on a topic and specify for it to include factual errors in its response. And then you can have students point out the errors or have them make revisions to the text, or they could pose follow-up questions. This really gets our students thinking critically about both your course content and also about how to respond to chatbots, how to write a great prompt. I also love the idea of an updated document-based inquiry activity to have students build on prior knowledge by adding some of these literacy skills. So start by sharing a doc on your projector and have students generate questions about the document. Once they have their questions, enter some of the questions into the chat bot, like also up on the projector. Read the chatbot's responses and work as a class or in teams on generating more thoughtful prompts that might work better. And then, if you'd like to take your deeper dive into the content, you could have students search for the source material from where ChatGPT could be pulling its information. So you could really take a deep dive into some content using an activity like this. Teaching our students to debate offers so many great benefits like critical thinking, communicating, information literacy, empathy and understanding, problem solving, civic engagement. I could go on. But having your students debate the chatbot is a powerful way to learn. Pick a topic, anything like, are aliens real? And let the chatbot know the age group it will be debating with. It is very clever at this. And then have teams of students generate arguments as prompts. Um, we can test it as a full class and see how the chatbot responds. Could we as a class come up with some arguments and rebuttals to points? So I think this would be a really fun way. And I shared 3 great places that you can find some debate topics for all sorts of students. You could also have your class work on brainstorming some of the seemingly impossible to solve problems like climate change or world hunger. There's a fabulous list on the United Nations site under the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These goals could lead to stunning school projects. You can enter your students' ideas into a chatbot and ask it for ideas on how these goals could potentially be accomplished. Invite it to expand on your students' ideas. I feel like that would be a really interesting collaborative effort. There's so many ideas for using AI tools to personalize learning in the classroom. The one we've been experimenting with in my Theories of Learning and Cognitive Development class is number 1. Use it to differentiate a lesson or assignment that you've been using. You can have it give you more challenging activities and readings for your advanced students. You can have it give ideas for more movement for your wiggly learners. Have it create directions for non-English speakers. There are so many directions you could go in. If you haven't used Frizzle.ai, it is a generative AI tool that helps anyone create UDL, Universal Design for Learning, lessons, resources, and assessments. So that's a really good place to start. Number 2 is to use an AI tool like Khanmigo as a one-on-one tutor. So Khanmigo is by Khan Academy, and it costs $9 a month or $99 a year. But Khan Academy right now is making deals with school districts right now. It seems really interesting to imagine providing all of our students with one-on-one tutors in areas where they're falling behind or want to learn more, want to go in a different direction. So I really see a lot of potential in this with AI tutors. And number 3 is to use it to explain math problems for individual students. Photo Math is an AI-powered app that explains with really detailed step-by-step directions how to solve problems from basic arithmetic to complex calculus. When I asked ChatGPT how teachers could personalize learning using a chatbot as a teaching assistant, it gave me 12 additional ideas. I think it's important to understand here that it is relying on our expertise, our skills and experiences as teachers to enter thoughtful prompts. If you know that a certain intervention will work for some of your students, a chatbot can give you some great alternatives on how to implement your ideas with the rest of the class. And it will do it fast. You could spend 30 minutes brainstorming yourself, or a chatbot could do it in 30 seconds. So think about using it in new ways. Check out John Spencer's ideas for differentiating instruction in innovative ways. If you have emergent bilingual learners in your classroom, Lexia is using the power of AI to integrate English language learning into math, science, and social studies. It is a powerful tool, but it is not free. My favorite tool to use in my own research is Chat PDF. If you're reading a new study for a grad class or for your own research, You just drop the PDF in here and the bot will chat with you about the document. It's like having your own brainstorming partner and research tutor wrapped into one and instantly at your fingertips. One of my doctoral students used this last week. She was trying to understand the implications of the theoretical framework she was hoping to use for her dissertation. And so it was amazing to hear her describe her experience in using like these really complex ideas. It is vitally important for all of us to understand that the use of AI extends beyond the classroom. I just did a job search for AI prompt writer, and it came up with hundreds of positions, like locally, remotely, internationally. So now is a great time to be introducing our learners to the ideas of thoughtful prompt writing. Learning how to engineer or thoughtfully craft a prompt is the key to unlocking the power of these chatbots. Give it a frame like pretend you're an expert in biology or take on the persona of a bumblebee. You can then set the tone. For example, respond in the tone of a fourth grader or respond in a way that would be engaging to high school sophomores. Number three, depending on your need, explain the format. Prompt it to write a poem, a script for a lesson, a rubric, a proposal for a Senate bill, anything. Number four, expand the response that you get. Tell it to give you examples. Ask it to make a connection to another lesson. Have it include more culturally responsive language in its response. And five, finally, use it to analyze your submission. What are the strengths and weaknesses of this rubric? And then paste a rubric that you've been using into the chat. Ask it how you could improve the following letter to a parent, make it more friendly or make it more professional. Or make this memo to my principal more succinct. Ask it if you're missing any important points. Ideally, you'll be using all five of these prompt tools to create targeted resources you can use in your teaching. This is a fantastic guide to prompt writing for educators and learners by Holly Clark. And this quote from Richard Coletta, the CEO of ISTE, will be a prompt to lead us into this next discussion. We need to be asking what we need to do to prepare young people for a future world that's not that far in the future. So, what do you think we need to do to prepare our learners for this future that is looming? So, get ready for the next Slido slide. If you have your phone, scan that QR code or use the link in the chat. This time, I'd like you to share what you think we need to do to prepare our learners for this future where AI tools are ubiquitous and AI literacy is essential in their work. Just enter a short idea, a few words. We're going to pause for about 30 seconds.
Excepting for the questions that come up. So we do have a few more. And a good question was from one individual was, ChatGPT or presumably other services like it is blocked in a particular school district.
Mhm.
How would you go about teaching students about these tools in that situation?
So yeah, that's definitely a challenge. I bet some people in the audience might have some ideas. My initial idea would be to use it at home when you're not on campus, if you don't have access to it right on campus. Um, and then you could like copy and paste or do a screen grab of the chat that you got and work with your students on prompt writing and doing things like finding out additional information about documents and where the chatbots perhaps got their information from. So yeah, that's a good question.
There were a lot of requests also for the John Spencer blog, and I believe we put that in there. I think somebody actually from the community gave that to us, so thank you. But yep, that link
Awesome.
should be in the chat. And a final question before we talk about the poll here is, can AI be used to create images?
Yes, yes. I've been experimenting a little bit with DALL-E, like DALL-E, that will create any image that you want, like a panda drinking a cup of coffee or whatever you can imagine. So yeah, there are a lot of great tools, and ChatGPT is just starting to incorporate some images into its prompts. So we're going to see some big changes, I think, with how these chatbots are responding to images. I'm looking at this poll. Yeah, I like this point that we need to prepare the teachers first. Once they're comfortable, then we can guide students on how to use it responsibly. I feel like that's really an important statement that I'm going to talk about coming up. But when we talk about responsible use, we'll talk about that a little bit more. But really great. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the poll. That's interesting. So time is our most precious commodity. This is where tools like ChatGPT really shine. Here are some quick ways that you can use a chatbot to save time in your teaching practice. And one suggestion I'd like to make right now is to keep a notebook on your desk where you add ideas, just these little thoughts that come to you during class or during a planning period that you can later enter into ChatGPT to see how it could help you. This is ultimately how you're going to learn what it helps best with and how it can save you time, hopefully contributing to your own wellness, making you better and more efficient at completing tasks that used to take more time and brain power. So we'll get started. The big one is to use one of the chatbots to help you with lesson planning. From big picture down to summative rubrics, these chatbots have you covered, and they can do it in seconds based on your prompts. You can watch this video to see a quick example. Once you have the slides, you'll have access to all these links. If you have a lesson or a topic idea, a chatbot can help you with the details, the format, specific steps, time estimates, activities that you could do with your students. It could go on and on. I recently asked it to help design our new media literacy class. Let's see. Here it is, little video. So I asked it to help design our new media literacy class. It had some really insightful ideas that the team of us who were designing it did not even think of. I could go from here to ask it to create rich discussion prompts, formative assessments, peer-reviewed assignments, all scaffolded that lead to a final project. I can ask it to write the rubrics aligned to the standards and outcomes. I could even have it write weekly video announcement scripts for the professors to read. The options just feel endless to me. Use any of the chatbots to create learning materials like worksheets, slideshows, handouts, directions at different levels, and alternative activities based on your outcomes, standards, and the different abilities of your learners. There are hundreds of AI tools that claim to help teachers and students, new ones every day. I haven't seen the chat or the Q&A specifically about this, but I imagine some of you are sharing your favorite new AI tools right now. I'm not going to go into real specifics on other tools. That would be another entire webinar, right? All these like outcropping of new tools. But I really enjoyed trying some of these that I shared on here, like Conquer.ai, CuriePod, Frizzle, Tome, and Readwise. So you might want to check some of those out. But I really love using ChatGPT to summarize an article. So for example, instead of browsing Newsela or another source like Common Lit to find an article on a specific topic at the right reading level for your students, ChatGPT can summarize or rewrite any article for any audience, customized per student in seconds. So for my example, I asked it to rewrite this Reuters article on airlines climate action for a high school student who reads at the 4th grade level, Boom. It simplified the language, shortened the sentences and the paragraphs, and made it immediately accessible to most readers. You can use chatbots to write test or quiz questions based on your outcomes standard, and even include web's depth of knowledge levels as a framework for your questions. For example, I asked ChatGPT to help me update a comprehensive exam, an exam that we give to everyone at the end of their digital learning specialist internship. I started by prompting it with the New Hampshire State preparation standards. I asked it to write multiple choice questions. I then asked it to write some questions that had multiple responses. And finally, I asked it to create some scenario-based questions. It was super helpful having it brainstorm some of the different directions we could take this exam in. We revised and then used some of the questions on our exam. It saved a ton of time and work on our part. So there you go. I sometimes use it to help me generate responses to emails. I have a couple of templates that I now use based on ChatGPT outputs in response to frequently asked questions. I've also used it to help me draft a newsletter post, a conference proposal, especially it is really great at those pesky word count rules. You know, when you have to summarize your session proposal in 50 words or less, ChatGPT is a superstar at that. Remember when you're writing prompts to not include any personally identifying information within your prompts. So if you're asking it to write a letter, you wouldn't put like students' names or even your name in the prompt itself. So you're not going to put any personally identifying information in your prompt, and then you're going to take what it gives you and revise it. That's where you can like add details, turn it into like your personal language. Make sure it doesn't sound too robotic if you're going to send like a newsletter post out to your whole school. You can also ask it to make its responses more professional or more casual or more creative or more fun, whatever adjective you need. On this list, this is this great list that teachers can use of other ways that you could use ChatGPT to generate communications. This is my example. This superintendent from Tampa sent out this really fun letter to students and families right before the big Taylor Swift concert, explaining that students would not be excused from school if they attended the concert. The fun part is that they highlighted Taylor Swift song titles throughout the letter. So when asked about it, the superintendent said that they used ChatGPT to help write it. Finally, if you haven't read Reading Ladders by Terry Lasesny, it's about meeting students where they are and helping them get to where they need to be on reading comprehension. The book contains lists to help your students climb book by book, rung by rung, up a reading ladder. I recommend reading her book and then using chatbots to help build customized reading ladders for your students. You can choose a starting grade level and a topic or genre and guide students up the ladder. This is the reading ladder ChatGPT created for a 5th grade boy who loves the outdoors and reads at a 3rd grade level. It takes a reader from We Are All Wonders to Cam Jansen to Hatchet, through some nonfiction series, up to Hoot, and then to The Call of the Wild. So fantastic. Yesterday, I tested Anthropic's new chatbot named Claude, which is owned by Amazon. Claude claims to have current information, and its slogan is helpful, honest, and harmless. So very interesting. I think this might be one to watch. I asked Claude to create a current reading ladder for my 5th grade boy who loves the outdoors but reads at a 3rd grade level. It did a great job of selecting high interest and recent book titles like The Cryptid Catcher, The Wild Robot, and The Lost Trail. I really encourage you to try out the different chatbots and see how they respond and which ones you like working with. Dr. Todd Finley, a professor of education at East Carolina University, tweeted this infographic with 14 other ideas that teachers can use to save time by using ChatGPT. And I wanted to add this quick note about how to cite a chatbot. So in APA, we cite ChatGPT or any of these tools like we would cite software. Like this is what APA is asking us to do right now. In my own writing, I'm including the prompt and will provide the full transcript of the response to my prompt when warranted. If you're using ChatGPT in your own writing as a brainstorming partner or an editor, I would not cite it. Like, I don't cite my grammar checker, or I don't cite a colleague who helped me revise an email, right? I'm kind of thinking of ChatGPT in that capacity. If you're using it with your students, you very may want to let them know how, when, and where you used it. If I were writing an article about the idea of using ChatGPT to create reading ladders, I'd write something like, when given the prompt, and then enter my prompt, ChatGPT indicated, and then blank, fill in some details. So you can see how that works. And MLA is a little bit different. For the in-text parenthetical citation, they have us using the first 3 words of the prompt, and then include the full prompt in the works cited list. I imagine that both of these systems are going to change a bit in the coming years. I bet like next year, we're going to have to see a different version of this. Ideally, if you are writing a scholarly paper, you would not cite a chat bot, but you would find out where the information is originally from and cite that. So that's a good transition to our final topic on the responsible use of AI. Do you
Do
have
we
some
have a moment
questions?
for some questions? Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to try to pull a couple of these together. There was questions and there's some concern about how much of these tools require a payment plan and how many are free. There's some concern about students not being able to afford to use the tools.
Yeah, Khan Academy, the Khan Amigo tool, is definitely an expensive one right now. Almost everything that I've talked about is 100% free. ChatGPT's free, Bard, Bing, Claude are all free. There are often paid versions that will offer more current information, but I haven't been using any paid versions.
Thank you. Yeah, my very favorite question, although it might be one of the hardest ones,
Oh, no.
and then we shouldn't have favorites, but the question was, how do we preserve creative writing in a world of AI?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to have to make creative writing like a really joyful experience, have those intrinsic rewards in the writing process and how we get feedback from people and how that feels to write something creatively on our own without the aid of a chatbot.
So we have 5 minutes remaining, so I know you have some slides left. So why don't we get through those? And if
Okay.
we're willing to stay a little later, we do still have some other questions.
Okay. I'm on it. I'm going to share some language for AI policies to use on your syllabus and with specific classes. If you're working on this like district-wide or school-wide, you may want to start with a really big picture. Reading UNESCO's policy statement on the ethics of artificial intelligence is a great jumping off point. Understanding some basics of AI literacy is important too. AI literacy is all about equipping students with the necessary skills to navigate that world of AI. Like what it is, how it's used, understanding its impact, understanding how it works, like what's an algorithm, what are language models, what does machine learning mean? And then we need to talk about developing skills that will help students thrive in a world where AI is prevalent. Students need to learn about ethical considerations like privacy and bias and how to use AI tools responsibly and effectively. Integrating AI literacy into the curriculum is essential. Some schools are just beginning to address AI literacy as part of information media and digital literacy skills. I imagine this is going to change as the years progress, but here are some good starting points to begin thinking about what a model of AI literacy would look like. So once you have the slides, you'll be able to go and click on this and look around. I think the thing I would want to teach students and educators is to not be scared of AI, but to be inquisitive and skeptical as we interact with these chatbot responses. The daily curriculum is a middle school level AI curriculum developed by the MIT Media Lab. They are there. This includes 4 detailed units with multiple lessons embedded that teach middle schoolers how to critically and thoughtfully analyze and use AI tools. This is a comprehensive and open access literature review on AI literacy in K through 12 education in the International Journal of STEM Education. If you're interested in a deep dive into some of these evidence-based recent studies on the topic, and if you don't have time to read it, drop it into Chat PDF and ask the bot to summarize it for you. Fun stuff. The University System of New Hampshire has created a standard for use of artificial intelligence by all employees. And Plymouth State has included a statement on the use of artificial intelligence in classes as part of our academic integrity policy. It states, using any artificial intelligence aid to complete assignments and academic assessments is a form of academic dishonesty unless otherwise authorized by the instructor. So we developed a policy specifically for all of our library, media, and digital learning specialist courses. It's included in our program handbook and on all of our syllabi. We're essentially encouraging candidates to use AI tools with acknowledgement in order to submit assignments and complete their work with more efficiency. We've seen that candidate work is higher quality and that because they are able to get that immediate feedback. We invite candidates in the program to use it to brainstorm a project, have it help outline a paper, have it read a final paper before submission and ask for APA feedback. These chatbots really are great at all of that. It also felt important to point out that AI is not just ChatGPT, but includes all these other apps, and that students will be responsible for any inaccurate, biased, offensive, or otherwise unethical content they submit, even if it was the AI's fault. And most helpful, I imagine, for all of you, this is the acceptable use of AI policy at New Hampshire's Bedford School District. This was generously shared with us by Bedford High School librarian Jessica Gilchrist. Their policy includes use by educators as well as students. If your school is wrestling with these ideas, this is required reading. They created a comprehensive policy with guidance and suggestions. And then big news here before we go, we are introducing a new master's level media literacy course this semester. It is 100% online and designed to equip current and future educators with advanced techniques to cultivate students' critical thinking skills. We also model how we're integrating the use of artificial intelligence into discussions and assignments. The class begins October 23rd and will run again in the summer. You can take it as a graduate level professional development course, which means you don't have to be enrolled at PSU to take it. You may have already seen this, but this is a fabulous tool to use when thinking about this work. This is Matt Miller, the Ditch That Textbook author, who asks, what does cheating and plagiarism mean when writing today? We all use spell checks. Many of us, myself included, use grammar checking tools. Google Docs and Microsoft Word build in suggestions for your writing. Our email and text messages predict what we're typing. So where do you fall on this chart? I have to say that I'm pretty far up at the top. I'm not quite at the very top, but when you get this document, would be an important tool to use to run a discussion with your staff. My assumption today is that my students have used AI in their writing. I'm trying to teach them to use it effectively, read the responses critically, and then revise its response before submitting. This really disrupted how I teach. I had to learn how to use these tools, but it felt important for my students and their students, so I did it. These tools will ultimately change the way we all learn and work. And finally, new research from the Walton Family Foundation and Impact Research shows that teachers are turning to AI-based technologies to enhance teaching and learning. Over 80% of teachers who've used AI tools say it positively impacted their classes. That is a statistically significant percentage of teachers, especially versus the 20% of the teacher population who believe it will likely only be used for students to cheat. So I imagine these are teachers who've never used a chatbot before who are saying that. I hope you all believe that AI tools can positively impact your classes. So, Jeremy, do we want to let everyone know who the winner of the book giveaway is? Do we have a name?
That's a good question. So I need to go take a look because I had forgotten about the book giveaway because I was so excited with everything else.
Okay, so
Let's take a look. Let's see. Do we have the book? Oh, we do have a book winner. So we have Caitlin. Caitlin, you're the winner. Caitlin, I'm going to butcher the last name. So we'll just go with Caitlin. We'll contact you. Congratulations, you're the book winner. We are in bonus time. I do want to thank everyone for coming to our talk today. We do hope you enjoyed it. Please take a look in your mailboxes. We might be sending you a little questionnaire about how we did, what you'd like to see differently. Again, we do have another webinar coming up in October, and so we'd love to see you there as well. During bonus time, Pam, if we're willing to, we do have a few questions that are kind of quick, and I wonder and suspect if, since we are not computer engineers, we might not know the answer to some of the questions, but I'll just throw them in if we're willing and able here.
yeah, let me say one thing, that there is a link to the slides here, but we're also going to email the slides out to you at the end of this. I also included a tiny Creative Commons license in the bottom, which means that you are welcome to reuse, remix, and share my slides any way you'd like. So tinyurl.com/Plymouth23. That's Plymouth with a capital P. All right, questions, Jeremy?
Well, the very quick ones are this. Do you know anything about how the data scientists are ensuring that these AI tools are not taking inaccurate information from their data points that they crawl and use that as the real thing? I have no idea.
Yeah, I am not sure. I'm not sure. And I did a lot of research over the past few weeks preparing for this. And I know that I read about that. Like there are discussions out there that we could find some of the research to back it up.
Yeah, it is definitely a valid concern.
Yeah, it's a
Another
concern.
quick question. If asking students to use the tool, as part of your class outside of school, wouldn't they need some sort of permission to use it, or a form sent or something?
Yeah, the terms of use for ChatGPT, Bard, and Bing are all that students need to be 13 to sign up. And if they're under 18, they need their parents' permission. So students would need to have their parents' permission to create an account. So this isn't the kind of stuff that we could just assign to everybody in our class. We can't assume that everybody has access to the internet outside of class
Yeah.
and that they can have permission to use this.
As part of your talk, you also spoke about reading levels and how you can ask it to respond at a particular reading level. And I presume that's where this question comes from. Do we have
Yeah.
any idea about where it gets that from? They mentioned publisher recommended levels. So not sure about that one.
Yeah, I feel like that is one of the algorithms that it's using something more complex, sort of Lexile range reading levels when it's doing that. I mean, I'm not sure about the books, but when we're asking it to rewrite, to summarize something for fourth graders, that is part of the algorithm built into these models.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, and then the only other question was if you were willing to show step by step asking a chatbot a question. And I know that's kind of outside of what we were planning. I would add it's quite easy. You go to bing.com. I mean, you are effectively using it right there. That's what I know.
Right. And same with ChatGPT and same with Bard and same with Claude now. Um, Yeah, it is super easy to do. And I included that a couple of my videos where I showed like tests are those are slide by slide. Let's see.
It's basically like a search engine. You find the site, and then you just, what's your question is sometimes the prompt that it's asking you, and you simply type that in. Yeah.
Right. So you can see like on this one, my question was my prompt was create multiple choice questions and constructed response prompts for teachers based on the following standards. And then I entered all the standards in. And then as soon as I hit enter, it started responding. Go. Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Well, we did say this is bonus time, so
Right
no judgment here.
there. So that was me. I entered all of that in. So you can see how much text it will take. And then this is its response in green. So it just started responding. It just started saying, here's question one. Here are the choices. And then I asked it, can you change those questions? What's a scenario-based question? And it was like, great. And it just went with it. What's a scenario-based question that matches this standard? And it went with it.
Yeah.
And so I just kept asking it to clarify those standards. So that's exactly what it looks like when you're using ChatGPT.
Well, thank you so much for the talk today. We really enjoyed it, both those behind the scenes and those in front of the camera. Thank you all for joining us. Another question that was asked and answered, though, is there a certificate available for your attendance to this webinar? And there will be. So you will receive that digitally, we presume. And that's really it. We look forward to seeing many of you at the next talk, October 25th. And if you've not seen that or registered for that, we certainly may send you another message reminding you that you can sign up. But again, thank you, Dr. Harlan. If you'd like to close.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all and have a great day.
Bye, everyone.